for anything. You can catch the conversation on our socials. On Twitter at Nigeria Info FM, on Facebook Nigeria Info 99.3, and on YouTube Nigeria Info 99.3 as well. Feel free to join our conversation on those platforms, because we will be taking your comments and your thoughts on all of those platforms. Welcome. Our phone lines will be issued out in a moment, but in the meantime you can take down this WhatsApp number, because we'll be using the WhatsApp number as well to engage with you. The number is 0809 597 5805. That is 0809 597 5805. That's our WhatsApp line this morning. This morning we're looking at poverty in Nigeria as the world marks International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. It promises to be an interesting conversation. It is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty today, 17th October 2019. It was first officially celebrated by the UN in 1993 after the UN General Assembly had, through its resolution 47-196, officially declared October 17 in December 1992. International Day for the Eradication of Poverty promotes people's awareness on the need to eradicate poverty and destitution worldwide, particularly in developing countries, i.e. Nigeria and the rest. According to estimates from the World Poverty Clock in 2018, about 90 million people, roughly half Nigeria's population, live in extreme poverty. However, Nigeria ended the year 2018 with 90.8 million people living in extreme poverty. Recall that in June 2018, it was first reported that Nigeria overtook India as the nation with the highest number of people living in extreme poverty across the world, with an estimated 86.9 million people measured to be living on less than $1.90 per day. That's about 684 naira. In December 2018, however, during President Buhari's 8.83 trillion naira 2019 budget presentation to lawmakers, he said, as of course reflected in paragraph 41 of his speech of the 2019 budget proposal, that one of the priorities intended is to further place the economy on the path of inclusive, diversified and sustainable growth in order to continue to lift significant numbers of the country's citizens out of poverty. Nigerian economy emerged from recession in the second quarter of 2017. In February of 2019, there are reports that the macroeconomic environment has stabilized and is recovering gradually, while giving background to the 2019 budget. There are also reports that macroeconomic stability has been largely achieved, adding that growth is expected to increase from 0.8% in 2017 to 2.1% in 2018 and 3.01% in 2019, with the continuing implementation of the ERGP, that's the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. So, how can Nigeria eradicate poverty? This is going to be an interesting conversation. That I bet you. Joining us from our Abuja studio is Henry Shea. Henry Shea is a representative of Oxfam in Nigeria, the team lead here, Even It Up campaign on inequality. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Henry Shea, good morning to you. Hello, Henry, can you hear me? Oh, Henry, I can't hear you. I will get back to Henry much later on. Folahan Johnson, Senior Program Officer for Budget, is also joining us from our Abuja studio. Folahan, good morning to you. We can't hear both of them. Hopefully, we'll reconnect with them in a short while. But let's tell you that Nigeria is... Hello, can you hear me? We're having a bit of issues with our connection there in Abuja. Let's take a short break and try and resolve the audio issue, the hitch that we are having right now. And hopefully when we return, that would have been resolved. It's a Morning Crossfire, 99.3 Nigeria Info.
This is Maureen Ogola reporting live from the Lagos State House alongside Keja Clementine Okonye reporting from the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Joy Kalu reporting live from the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. For news that's close to home, hear it first on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Up to the minute news that matters to you. Our reporters are always on the go, bringing it as it happens.
The lawmakers have decided to work with the executive for the development of Lagos State. Adewuni reporting. It has been 5 days of banter, training, and confirmation at the Senate. Judges reporting.
Listen to the major news every day, 6 a.m., 12 noon, 3 p.m., and 6 p.m. live on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange has declared
Minister of Trade and Commerce,
and on the economic front, reportedly all prices.
So the thoughts around creating a money business and economy show on 99.3 Nigeria Info was in trying to help you understand how business and economy headlines affect your income. But it turns out you want more. Powered by the 99.3 Nigeria Info newsroom, we will be covering AGMs, news briefings. Basically, we will be the fly on the wall at every business discussion that matters. Because most of the time, the news headlines do not cover everything that's going on.
Join Tunji Andrews on the Money, Business and Economy Show. Every weekday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Let me tell you about Public Square. There are several lines that meet other edges.
The youth of this country who are already in a disillusioned, disenchanted state will be encouraged.
Where we talk about the fine margins. Sometimes it's black, white, and blurry.
It's also informed by the need to save costs and reduce legislative time.
And then there are the actors, right at the center, coming through political processes, which could be dramatic.
To be a state of dismal if Parliament does not rise this money.
And controversial.
If driving to the roads is engaging the macabre, culpability is that of government.
And there's you to help connect the dots from the top to the bottom. Join Rotimi Sankore and Arogo Obo at the Public Square every Friday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Did you know? Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
NGO. The International Criminal Court, commonly referred to as the ICC, is a permanent tribunal to prosecute individuals for genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. History. The establishment of an international tribunal to judge political leaders accused of war crimes was first made during the Paris Peace Conference in 1919 by the Commission of Responsibilities. The issue was addressed again at conference held in Geneva under the auspices of the League of Nations on the 1st through the 16th of November 1937, but no practical results followed. The United Nations states that the General Assembly first recognized the need for a permanent international court to deal with atrocities of the kind committed during the World War II in 1948 following the Nuremberg and Tokyo tribunals. At the request of the General Assembly, the International Law Commission drafted 2 statutes by the early 1950s, but these were shelved as the Cold War made the establishment of an international criminal court politically unrealistic. The idea was revived again in 1989 when A.N.R. Robinson, the then Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, proposed the creation of a permanent international court to deal with the illegal drug trade. While work began on a draft statute, the international community established ad hoc tribunals to try war crimes in the former Yugoslavia and Rwanda, established in 1994, further highlighting the need for a permanent international criminal court. Following years of negotiation, the General Assembly convened a conference in Rome in June 1998 with the aim of finalizing a treaty. On the 17th of July 1998, the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court was adopted by a vote of 120 to 7, with 21 countries abstaining. The 7 countries that voted against the treaty were China, Iraq, Israel, Libya, Qatar, United States, and Yemen.
Did you know? Did Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know?
This is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Apologies for that break. Now, hopefully, I think we are back. Again, we are looking at poverty in Nigeria. International Day for the Eradication of Poverty is celebrated today, October 17, 20, every year, as a matter of fact. We're linking up with our Abuja studios right now. Henry Ishe joins us from Abuja. Henry is Nigeria's team lead, Even It Up campaign on inequality. Henry, good morning to you. Hello, Henry. Can you hear me? Hello, Henry? We lost that connection there. Hopefully, we'll be able to reconnect with Henry much later on as we go along on the program this morning. Talking about poverty in Nigeria, definitely it's being said time and time again that poverty situation in Nigeria is turning to be a global epidemic because there is no way Nigeria will be battling poverty and the rest of the world will not catch cold, because it's just simple as that. The population of the country is set to be around 200 million. That's right. And half of this population are in abject poverty. One of the main questions that we have this morning is to I intended to pose these questions to my guests, really, but hopefully we'll be able to get them online to have this conversation with them any moment now. But then again, the question will be that has the government of the country done enough to make sure, to ensure that we take people out of poverty in Nigeria? Well, the government will tell you that there are SIP programs every now and again. There are interventionist agencies that are supposed to take people out of poverty. Even the current government has promised to lift over 100 million people out of poverty in a couple of years. And how the government will do that is what I don't know, because there have been talks about Nigeria, sinking in debt and debt over and over again. Are we live in Abuja right now? Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you. Am I on to Henry?
Yeah, on to Gbolahan Johnson.
Oh, Gbolahan Johnson, it's good to have you here.
Yeah,
in case you are just tuning in, Gbolahan Johnson is a senior program officer of budget. Gbolahan, let's get into it right away. Poverty in Nigeria, and let's talk from monetary terms now. In statistics and figures, what is the current situation of poverty level in Nigeria?
Yeah, when you talk about poverty in Nigeria, you have to look at it from two angles. You talk about how many Nigerians are living in poverty, and then you look at how many Nigerians are living in extreme poverty. The number 89, 90 million that has been going around is talking about the number of Nigerians that are living in extreme poverty. And that talks about people that have extreme difficulty in feeding themselves, in access to basics, and all of that. Then you talk about the number of Nigerians that are living in actual poverty. That is, they are living in less than $1 per day. And that figure is somewhere around 120, 121 million presently. But when we discuss the issues of poverty, our attention has been shifted to extreme poverty, which in itself is a terrible situation. But then we need to begin to look at poverty as having over 60% of the population, 60 to 70% of the population in poverty, living on less than $1 per day. So those are just the basic numbers of people living in poverty and people living in extreme poverty.
There's much people living in extreme poverty in Nigeria. What has gone wrong? Where did we get it wrong?
Yeah. It's basically a systemic issue because over the years, government has reluctantly spent less and less and less on the poor sectors, the sectors that have the capacity to drag people out of poverty so that they are self-sufficient. So we have that every year. The poor sectors such as education, agriculture, and even health get the least expenditure from government. And when you discuss expenditure, we have to look at it from two angles. Number one, government is not making enough provision in terms of budgeting terms. But even the little that government is budgeting for these proposed sectors, they are not even spending enough. So you have that over the years, the only thing government has been doing is basically paying salaries. And that is not sufficient to drag people out of poverty. That is not sufficient to empower people to live above poverty.
I'm glad you mentioned budget, because budget plays a very important role in the life of any nation.
Yeah.
Our yearly budget has been said to be inadequate
Definitely.
compared to what Nigeria needs. But then, can we help it? If we're talking about the budget not being adequate, is there anything we can do to make the budget adequate? Because that Nigeria is a poor country.
There is so much we can do. Yeah, there is so much we can do to make our budget adequate. And you know, there is this general street colloquial that for you to make money, you need money. You understand? So what has happened is that over the years, government is not spending enough on investments that can guarantee revenue generation. So because we have oil that gives us easy money, so government has not focused attention on other revenue generating streams, one of which is agriculture. So imagine for the 2020 budget, the 2020 proposed budget of the government, you have agriculture taking just about 1.23%. And that is actually not good enough. If you have the larger population of those living in rural areas and some people living in urban centers working in that space in the agri sector, you really can't be making that kind of budgetary allocation to that sector and expect that something would, maybe a magic wand, will just increase productivity in that sector. Government is really not doing enough, and government is not being sincere, because a lot of attention has been on issues of tax, how you can increase revenue through taxation and things like that. However, you have that government is actually taxing the poor the more and not really taxing the rich in terms of the way our is losing a lot in that space, whereas we are increasing price for small business that we should actually be supporting a lot of policies to make sure that it's easier for them to do business at a small and medium scale level, to also increase job in the
you said
country.
that government is leaving a lot in the other space that they're supposed to focus on. How can government focus on that area? And are you saying that it's a deliberate thing the government is doing to tax the people more and leave the other privileged few?
Okay, the thing is, we all agree that we need to increase revenue, and one of the easiest way to increase revenue is through taxes, right? And another way to increase revenue is through investing in people. Investing in people in terms of education. When people know better, they can do better and earn better. For example, the United Kingdom, a lot of revenue is being generated through education in the United States. I think the last statistics we have about Nigeria has one of the highest number of people traveling to the United Kingdom among other countries for education tourism. You look at health, how much even our president had to travel out of the country to get his health sorted out. But if government can invest in these sectors, and there are so many other sectors of the economy that we can invest in, you understand? So government is not investing enough in people, but yet they are taxing those same people. So people don't have the capacity to even pay those taxes that government is levying them.
For now, quickly, before we need to go on a break now, but before we go on a break, let me ask you this question. Our population is soaring. About 8 million children are born in Nigeria yearly. Right now, it's estimated that we are over 200 million. And trust me, the census of Nigeria that should have been done is yet to be done, which means that we're just speculating. We're just kind of like just rounding up figures. How can we tackle poverty if we don't have the right numbers?
Yeah, it's another different one that you've just opened up in terms of our population numbers, because government is not doing enough to, like I said, educate the people on basic things. So you have that we don't have enough on birth control. You would have a poor man that cannot actually fend for himself first, and he has about 8 children, and those 8 children becomes liability to government, because one way or the other, government has to take responsibility for that. But then our population, which in itself should be an advantage, is presently a serious disadvantage for us, because we don't have enough structure, we don't have the system in place to bring out the best in the population numbers we have. For example, the population projection says that Nigeria over the next few years will have the highest number of people within the working space. So that means we have a high youth population in Nigeria and even in Africa generally. But government is not doing enough to make sure that we maximize the numbers that we have in terms of population growth.
Thank you for joining us on the morning Crossfire this morning. Apologies for starting by schedule. Falao, thank you for being a part of the morning Crossfire.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Falao Johnson is
me.
the Senior Program Officer Budget. He joined us from our Abuja studio. In case you missed it, you can actually watch Falao on our Facebook page. He is live there. When we return after this break, you'll be privileged to also be seeing another guest on our Facebook page. If you're not watching, please go to Nigeria Info FM. That's Nigeria Info FM on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter. We're streaming there on Twitter as well. That's Nigeria Info FM, at Nigeria Info FM. On YouTube, we're live as well. Nigeria Info 99.3. You can stream and watch us live and see our guest at our studio here. So, yes, you can be a part of that discussion on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. All right. And our WhatsApp portal is also on 0809 597 5805. Let's head out for a short break. When we return, we'll be speaking with another guest on the program this morning, Henry Shea from Oxfam. He is Nigeria's lead Even It Up campaigns on inequality for Oxfam. We're back in a moment. I am Sheriff Quadry. Join us again.
More talk, news, and sports after this.
Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. You are welcome back to the morning Crossfire. Today we are talking poverty in Nigeria as regards the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. I am Sheriff Quadry. Our WhatsApp line is 0809 597 5805. That is 0809 597 5805. On Twitter, we are at Nigeria Info FM. On Instagram, Nigeria Info FM Lagos. On YouTube, Nigeria Info 99.3. And on Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3. You can watch us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And see our studios here and our studio in Abuja to connect with our guests there. You can see us live. That's it. It's a first in Nigeria kind of technology. And we did it just to make sure that we give you the best of radio broadcast digitally and, of course, on the terrestrial platform as well. Welcome. So let's get on with our conversation this morning. Henry Ushe of Oxfam in Nigeria, team lead, Even It Up campaign on inequality, joins us live from an Abuja studio this morning. Oh, wow. We lost Henry there. Hopefully we're able to get Henry back on the line before we wrap things up on the program this morning. Quickly, let's take a few comments on WhatsApp this morning. In a country where elects as free health, I don't understand what you are talking about here, but thanks for trying to be a part of our conversation this morning. Appreciate it. Let's quickly take a few comments from Facebook. Poverty is hitting Nigeria. That's coming from Link Oden Olobo, and Alim Baude is saying good morning to Nigeria Info. Thank you, Alim Baude. We appreciate you. Drop a comment on our platforms. We're being joined right now in the studio by Tunde Onakoya of Chess in Slums, Lagos. Tony, good morning to you. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, good morning.
Apologies for being held up in traffic.
Oh, terrible.
Let's talk about poverty in Nigeria and what your organization has been doing in taking kids, especially kids, out of poverty. Because you can't talk about poverty without actually talking about the impact of poverty on the kids. Chess in Slum, how has this helped take children out of poverty?
Okay, so Chess in Slums Initiative, it's a project that we've been doing for a little over a year now.
Right.
For children living in slum communities. We're using the game of chess, to drive a social impact, in these slum communities. We're using it to empower the kids.
Right.
We're using it to train their minds. I'm a chess professional.
Right.
So I saw the need to, take, a game that aids mental development like chess, to these communities where these children have very few opportunities in life. And when we talk about poverty, poverty is most prevalent in some of the slum communities.
Right, you can say that again. And, you can say that again.
A slum community like Makoko, for example, is the largest floating slum in Africa. And with a population of about 100,000 people living there.
In Makoko, here in Lagos?
In Makoko, here in Lagos. There are so many other terrible slum communities at Jogunle. The Chess in Slums project, we do in a slum community somewhere in Ikorodu, Majority Ikorodu precisely.
Right.
And I also grew up around the slum community, a place called Isaleodo in Agric. And
so you know what it feels like. You know how it is like.
Yeah.
Poverty in Nigeria. You are with the experience.
Of course.
Was that what motivated you?
Yeah, true. Because I tell people that this is me just reliving, my own personal story and trying to, help these children get some of the best opportunities in life, just as I've gotten. I can say chess practically saved me from, where I grew up, and it exposed me to a different kind of world. As a young boy, I remember then in primary school, I was introduced to chess in primary school, and I would win tournaments. I came from a place where, poverty there was, it's terrible. We lived in a one-room apartment,
Right.
and we didn't have a lot of things. But I went to a really good school, and that was one of the advantages I had. That was where I got to learn how to play chess, and chess saved me, gave me opportunities, and it helped me to see the world differently.
We'll talk about seeing the world differently, especially as regards what you've done with kids in slums here in Lagos. But let's see if we have Henry Uche in our Abuja studio. Henry, good morning to you. Are you with us?
Good morning, Sheriff.
Fantastic. Henry,
Good morning, Sheriff.
From Oxfam in Nigeria, team lead Even It Up campaign on inequality. Let's start with Even It Up campaign. How bad is inequality in Nigeria, Henry?
Yes, the trajectory of inequality in Nigeria is quite on a very high scale, and Oxfam has continued to work on this in this direction to actually end poverty and injustice across the world. We first of all launched that report in 2014, the global report on ending inequality globally. Yeah, are you there? Hello, Sharif.
Hello, Henry. Okay, let's get on with
Hello,
our
you there,
conversation
Sheriff?
here. Oh yeah, eventually. Let's get on with our conversation here. Let's talk about seeing the world differently. I said we were going to talk about it. From what you've done so far with kids in slums, how would you describe the impact?
Okay. Some of the children we train about 100 children in slums of Majidon. They've gotten scholarship opportunities.
Oh wow!
And when we
scholarship.
Got
Wow!
When we got to the community, I was a bit worried because most of those children can't, afford basic needs. And most of them were not even in school. So and chess as a tool can only aid, their education. So we started training them, and they started going for tournaments, and they started doing exceptionally well. And people started saying this, and they were like, "Oh, some of these children. Okay, let's see what we can do. Let's get some of them back to school." Chess is such an amazing tool that
right.
we were able to engage their minds. And chess gives us a template to work with the minds of these children. And like you say, poverty is not just lack. It's actually a thing of the mind. It begins with the mind. And we start working with their minds. Start teaching them to think properly before making decisions. We start teaching them the need to strategize for doing anything. And these are children from slum communities that haven't even been to school before.
Right.
So training their minds like that, we start creating success stories. We currently have the national under-10 female champion.
Wow. Wow.
So and we have about 8 children on lifelong scholarships now.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh
so,
my.
We still just like
there's a lot to be done, right?
Oh, yes.
Now let's talk about sports in eradicating poverty. Chess is a form of a game, and largely sports are being said to be some kind of an empowering mechanism tool through which you can actually eradicate poverty. From your experience, is that true?
Yeah, of course, very true. Because a lot of people, there's so much over reliance on going to school, graduating and start looking for jobs. What about looking for kids that are exceptionally talented
right.
at games? It's amazing because children, in their formative years, they have abilities to do a lot of things. And most of parents they discourage their kids. They all want the conventional. Oh, I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be an engineer and all that. So they neglect this talent that some of those kids.
They suppress it in some way.
Suppress it, of course. Yeah. So in our training, during our training session now, we have exceptional kids. We've been training them for less than a year now.
Okay.
And, they've gotten so good.
What are the challenges that you face?
Well, basically, it's finances.
Just to be clear, you're doing this on your own for now?
No, there's a team. I have a team. For now.
No, I mean, as an NGO for now.
Yeah,
you're on your own.
Yeah, of course. We haven't gotten grants yet, or major sponsorships. So just the financial challenge so far then I think the acceptance too, because our stories, our documentaries have been featured on Al Jazeera, on BBC,
absolutely, yeah,
I've
seen those.
But it's baffling that here in Nigeria we haven't been entirely recognized yet. This project we're doing for
that brings us to my next question, which is of course the impact, the support from government, the effort of the government in eradicating poverty. You've been to these slums. That's where you do your work majorly as an NGO. Can you actually say that you feel government's presence in these slums that you've been to?
The truth is that most of the slum communities have been entirely marginalized, by the government, and nothing happens there. And these are, you see the kind of stories that you can only find in Nollywood movies. And people are,
people are living it.
It's horrible. There's this story of one of the boys we trained, whose mom, got involved in an accident, and one of her legs was amputated. It was, she went to Ojota to pick scraps so our kids could get to feed that night. And a Loma bus that was coming to drop Deborah there just fell and killed a couple of people or got a leg. Now she didn't even get medical attention. It went on, and it just we lost her last week.
Oh wow!
They
That's
couldn't
so
even
sad.
afford basic things, and it's just terrible that most of these children there are going through the same cycle of poverty. And until we actually strike a sustainable change, I wish the government would really look into some of those places, because that is where poverty is most prevalent. They don't have even the
no sign of government in those places at all. Indeed. At this juncture, let me quickly say that we have tried to reach out back to our Abuja studios to have a chat with Oxfam representative there, but we've not been able to do that. Hopefully, if we can get him before the end of the program, yes, we will do that. I have a comment here on our WhatsApp portal, and this person says, to the guest, I have a kid in a slum that I've been training in Kota. He's pretty good. Destiny is his name, 12 years old. I am so happy to hear this initiative. I want to know all the requirements. Okay, all right then. That's another person helping somebody there. Let's open up our phone lines and have a conversation with you as regards poverty in Nigeria. What can the government do to take people out of poverty? International Day for the eradication of poverty is not something that will roll out the drums and start drumming and dancing. There is a lot of thinking to be done. So let's do the thinking together on the program this morning and find out exactly what we can do, what the government can do. Maybe it's even out, maybe not totally, but somehow out of the government hands. Maybe largely now depends on individuals like my guests in the studio here and the rest of other people trying and doing their best day in, day out to make sure that they at least take some people out of poverty. Here are the lines that you can call if you want to be a part of the program this morning.
Call us on 0127709993, 0127719993, 0127729993, and 0127739993. This is Nigeria Info. We are listening.
Nigeria 99.3 Nigeria Info. Yes, let's get on with our conversation on our calls right now. I'll take the messages on Twitter in a moment, but let's get some calls in. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, this is Chooks calling from Maja.
This is who?
Chooks.
Okay, Chooks. Welcome, Chooks. Welcome.
I had the opportunity of working with some, I don't know whether NGO in the slum, particularly in Ajegunle.
Okay.
And, the issues should be balanced. Because it's mostly is a deliberate, decision to stay in these areas. Most of these areas have been designated as maybe flood-prone areas.
Right.
And people will get there, they will fill the place with sawdust, with a lot of materials that are not sustainable.
And just take a spot and call it home.
And when issues come now, they will bang everything on the government. I'm not saying that when they find themselves there, it's not the responsibility of the government, because they are citizens and they should take care of them. So that area needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
You know, most of these areas, government have tried to extend their magnanimity to that areas in terms of drainage, in terms of, but because what we are hearing now is there is no money, there is no money. I don't think such luxury exists now. That has been maybe in the last 5 or 7 years.
All right, Chicks.
But now, there's an issue.
Thank you for calling. Thank you too for calling. Hello, good morning to you. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Tarotini.
Welcome to Morning Crossfire. My name is Sheriff. What's your name?
Okay, Sheriff. You're on to Prince Ferdinand. I'm calling from Kuka.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Our guest, you have done a very nice job. I must commend you. Okay. The problem with poverty eradication is that the government is sitting on. Nothing is left to develop the local government to the state or even to the federal. So it's going to be a very difficult task because the government has taken over everything. The money is not left for the development, and there's no way we can do any magic. Thank you.
Thank you too for calling, Ferdinand. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, this Friday from Igwelere.
Welcome, Friday.
Yeah, to eradicate poverty in the land, it's the government that brought the poverty, and it's only them that can still take it away. They know what to do. They don't want to do it. See, I always say this because they don't want to do it because they just want us to remain where we are. But by the grace of God, we are training our children in the nearest future when at least 80% of Nigeria are well educated. By then there will be a channel to the government. Then, yes. But for now, our hands are tied. But our children, maybe in the nearest future, our children will be able to do it for us because they will be on equal level with those people in power today with their children.
All right,
Thank
Friday.
you.
Thank you too for calling. Appreciate your time. Let's see if we have if we can link up with Abuja right now. Hello.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, Henry's back from Abuja. Henry, welcome back. Apologies for the terrible connection this morning. Now, quickly again, let's go back to that question about inequality. How bad is it in Nigeria?
Okay, so for Oxfam, inequality has reached its crisis level.
Its crisis level at the moment. So that's why we launched our first inequality campaign, Global Reports, in 2014, and looking at the various dimensions of inequality and how and what are those drivers, those key drivers that propagate inequality within our space. We went further to look at inequality specifically within the Nigerian context. So we launched another report in 2017 to look at various issues around inequality in Nigeria, from child labor to looking at unemployment and looking at various issues around cost of governance and why those are some of the key issues that we need to deal with within our space. Over this period, we realized that the number of out-of-school children keep increasing, and we want to look at how do we support government to curtail or to cut down on those kinds of numbers, and why do we continue to invest more in governance over time rather than investing in social services that should directly, impact on the life of people directly at that space here. So we've continued to look at inequality because for Oxfam we believe that ending poverty and injustice, we need to work particularly on inequality. So if we can nip inequality in the bud, we'll be able to drastically reduce poverty to its barest minimum.
Inequality that we're talking about. I mean, if we're saying that there is inequality in Nigeria, what are the causes of it?
There are various, those are things we call drivers of inequality as Oxfam. So we have regressive taxation, basically, where the rich is taxed less and the poor is taxed more, thereby taking away those money that are meant for the poor to be able to improve on their livelihoods, against their well-being. We have prohibitive cost of governance, because our governance system is so expensive that, we are as at 2017, we are ranked the third highest paid in terms of parliamentary payments, like legislative salaries and allowances and all of that. After America and Brazil, we are ranked the third highest paid legislators in the world. We also have elite political capture, favoritism, and nepotism has actually continued to make inequality that adverse within our space, such that if you're born poor, you could actually stay poor for the rest of your life, and if you're born rich, you could keep getting richer and richer over the period. We have poor resource management. Looking at our budget system, we don't prioritize those issues that could actually impact on people directly. In terms of key sectors like health, education, agriculture, infrastructure, and all of that, those things that can actually make life better and meaningful for the majority of Nigerians and majority of poor people. So that those expenditure within our budget system, looking at recurrent and capital, is so lopsided that a lot goes to salaries, and overheads and cost of governance, as against providing our social amenities for the people. Poor policy implementation, a lot of policies without adequate implementation. For example, we have a very fine tax policy, on ground, but the tax law is not as fine as the policy is. So you see the tax policy speaking to different areas of our fiscal regime, and then the tax law speaking to different other things. So we need to actually look at our laws and policies and then bring them at par to each other. And then, like I mentioned, also poor budgeting system. So we need to deliberately, purposely put into place within our social system, put into place efforts to take people out of poverty deliberately. For example, most people talk about increasing salaries and all, increasing wages and all of that, but that is not the core of it. If you put more money in people's pockets and then not produce more goods, simple demand and supply in economies tell you that more money chasing few goods, inflation will go high. So what do? We need to deliberately ensure that our industries begin to work, begin to function. We need to begin to produce rather than consume only. We need to begin to like the border closure at the moment. It's an excellent thing to do. But the question is it coming at the right time? Have we put in place measures to be able to feed our people, to provide for our people the basic things before we close those borders? So these are some of the drivers
let's talk
of
about
inequality within our space.
Side of the discussion, similar side of the discussion, which is the multidimensional poverty index. The 2019 Global Multidimensional Poverty Index, jointly published by the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative at the University of Oxford, shows that the population of Nigerians in multidimensional poverty increased from 86 million in 2007 to 98 million, and that's about 51.4% of the entire population in 2017. And this is actually a source of concern for some economists who believe that if care is not taken, people would think that because they... First and foremost, let me even ask you, what does it mean, multidimensional poverty?
Okay, so that's one aspect of poverty, but let me treat it directly. Multidimensional poverty has to do with people who are poor because, first of all, they don't have food on their table. Second of all, they don't have access to education. Thirdly, they don't have access to basic infrastructure. For example, girls can't buy pad. They can't buy pad. They use rags and tissue papers. No access to water. For example, the UN says every individual at least should have 10 liters of water to use per day. Not just water, potable water to use per day. But there are communities within our space, within Nigeria, that do not have access to even 5 liters of water per day, potable water per day. Women trek as far as kilometers, a lot of kilometers to get water, just to take care of their selves and all of that. Rather than investing those time into more productive ventures, they use those time to work long miles, long distances to get water that is not even potable, So these are some of the issues that or indicators that actually tell if people are living, within those kinds of category of
I get your
poverty.
definition
And that's
very
why
well,
for
Henry. It
Oxfam,
means that a lot of people are actually in poverty without knowing that they're in poverty. Most of Nigerians don't have access to quality healthcare. They don't have access to water. They have to provide it for themselves. They don't have access to good environment, infrastructure. It's not there.
Sheriff, if you interact with Nigerians on our site, a couple of people were interacting on the issues why Oxfam say okay, why the world say we are now the capital of poverty and all of that, and people are making reference to we living those in extreme poverty living on $1.90 per day, and that they converted it to naira and giving them like 608 something naira, and they feel that if an individual has that kind of amount, the person is not classified as a poor person because the person can use that kind of money to buy 3 square meal on the roadside, and then feed himself or herself for the day. But that's one minute side, and my response to such a conversation would be that if you eat by the roadside, maybe for that kind of amount, you will soon go to the hospital, because those kinds of food sold at the roadside are sold over gutters, over drenches, over dirty environment. The way those kind of foods are prepared and all of that, that's even just one side. Can you actually use that kind of amount to take care of yourself at the hospital? Can you even buy a card at the general hospital with that kind of amount? Can you, if you will not sleep in your house and then eat the food, you have to take some kind of transport, either to your workplace, either to where you're going to even buy the food eventually. You're going to spend some money from that 608 something there, right? And then you're still, if you have a family, in Africa, we are communal people. You must have dependents, those who look up to you, that you want to, even if you're not a married person, for example, even if you're the only one that was giving birth to your family, you also have people who depend on you somehow, directly or indirectly. How will you be able to use that kind of amount to support them as well? So it's multidimensional in the sense that there are lots and lots of things that are not in place. And so if someone is living on that kind of amount, in fact, if you ask me from my experience working on the field and with community people, there are people who live way below that amount per day. Trust me, Sheriff. People who live way before that amount per day, they can't have access to to wash materials. They can't have access to good food. They are farmers, and then they feed on whatever they produce throughout the year. And so the question of you producing rice, for example, or you're producing corn as a farmer, and then you live on cornmeal all through the year. So that's why Oxfam said, okay, in one of our interventions, to say, as farmers also, as local people, as communal people, you can also do what we call trade by barter in terms of exchanging food for food. So that if you're producing just rice, for example, or cassava, for example, you can exchange cassava with someone who produces beans and then be able to exchange beans and all of that. So those are some of the...
We are out of time. Please. Apologies for the hitches that we experienced earlier with the connection. Henry, thank you for joining us. Thanks to Henry O'Shea, Oxfam in Nigeria lead Evening Top campaign on inequality, for joining us live from our Abuja studio. And many thanks to Falawan Johnson as well, Senior Program Officer Budget. He joined us earlier from our Abuja studio as well. Tunde Onokoya, Chess in Slums, has also been a part of the show. Tunde, thank you for coming around. Many thanks to those who assisted on the show this morning: Zainab Yakin, Yvonne Ohaifo, and Tosin Akinride. Babatunde Abdusalam, thank you for making sure that our listener can see us online as well. I am Sheriff Quadry. Thank you for being a part of the program today. We are back tomorrow morning for another edition of Morning Crossfire. It starts at 6. In the meantime, Tunji Andrews will be in the studio with Money, Business and Economy Show. Have a fantastic day. Bye for now.